the mansion that became a battlefield. Rick Ross built his entire image on one word: boss. The cars, the chains, the champagne, the private jets, the giant estate he calls the Promised Land, everything about Ross screams power. But the moment whispers started spreading about a massive financial problem, 50 Cent did what 50 Cent always does. He turned the rumor into a weapon, and this time, he did not come with a quiet jab. He came straight for the symbol Ross loves most: his mansion. The clip that lit the fire started making rounds after 50 Cent appeared on $1 million worth of game. Sitting there calm, confident, and almost too relaxed, 50 looked like a man who had waited years for this exact opening. He did not yell. He did not need to. His delivery was cold, sharp, and calculated. He pointed at Rick Ross's huge estate and asked the question everybody suddenly wanted answered: can Ross really afford the lifestyle he sells to the world? That one question changed the whole conversation. Because in hip-hop, money is not just money. Money is identity. Money is status. Money is proof. For Rick Ross, the mansion is not only a home, it is a kingdom. It is the place where he throws car shows, films, videos, hosts events, and reminds the world that he is not just a rapper, he is a mogul. So when 50 Cent suggested that the property might be more burden than blessing, fans immediately understood the deeper insult. 50 mocked the size of the estate, the cost of maintaining it, and even the idea of Ross cutting his own grass. What should have looked like a rich man taking pride in his property suddenly got twisted into something embarrassing. Online, the memes came fast. One side laughed with 50, the other defended Ross, saying only a real owner would put hands on his own land. But the damage was already done. The conversation had moved from music to money, from lyrics to lifestyle, from success to survival. And Ross was not going to sit back while 50 painted him as a fake boss. Before we go deeper, comment where you're watching from. If you think 50 Cent exposed something real, press 1. If you think Rick Ross is still the bigger boss, press 2. And make sure you subscribe, because this story gets messier with every chapter. 50 Cent turns a rumor into a trial. Once 50 Cent smelled blood in the water, he did not just make one joke and walk away. That has never been his style. 50 does not throw a punch and disappear. He studies the weak spot, circles it, and keeps pressing until the entire internet is watching. What made this attack so effective was how simple it sounded. He was not accusing Ross of something complicated. He was asking regular people a regular question: how much does it cost to keep a place like that running? The taxes, the staff, the landscaping, the electricity, the security, the repairs, everything about a mega estate comes with a mega bill. And when fans started thinking about those numbers, 50 had already won the first round. Ross's image depends on abundance. He is the rapper who made luxury sound like oxygen. He speaks in the language of Maybachs, marble floors, expensive bottles, and massive deals. But 50 flipped that image upside down. He made people look at the same mansion and wonder if it was a crown or a chain. That is the part that made the jab so dangerous. In public, 50 Cent acted like he was simply being honest. But anyone who understands their history knows this was personal. These two have been throwing shots for years. Their feud has never been only about records or rankings. It has always been about humiliation. Who can make the other look smaller? Who can control the story? Who can turn the public into a jury? And this time, 50 gave the jury one big exhibit: the Promised Land. Fans started digging through old clips of Ross showing off the property. They reposted footage of him riding around the estate, hosting guests, speaking proudly about ownership and legacy. But now the tone was different. Every old video was being rewatched through 50's accusation. Every flex was being measured against the question of affordability. That is how social media changes a story. It does not need proof to create pressure. It only needs suspicion, repetition, and a funny enough punchline. Ross had spent years making the estate look untouchable. 50 made it look questionable in a matter of minutes. Rick Ross fires back like a man, protecting his throne. Rick Ross did not stay quiet for long. Silence might work for some celebrities, but for Ross, silence would have looked like surrender. When your whole brand is built on being the biggest boss in the room, you cannot let another man laugh at your empire and say nothing. So Ross responded the way Ross responds best, with confidence, sarcasm, and a voice that made it clear he was not losing sleep. He pushed back against the idea that cutting his own grass meant he was broke. To Ross, it was the opposite. He framed it as ownership, discipline, and pride. A man who owns land can walk that land. A man who built something can touch it, maintain it, and enjoy it. Ross wanted fans to see the mansion not as a financial trap, but as proof that he had reached a level most people only dream about. That response mattered because Ross understood the deeper game. This was not really about grass. It was about perception. If fans believed 50's version, Ross became a rapper pretending to be richer than he was. If fans believed Ross's version, 50 became a bitter rival trying to mock a man for enjoying what he earned. And Ross leaned hard into that second version. He reminded people that he had survived industry storms before. He had been doubted, mocked, challenged, and questioned many times. Yet he was still here, still visible, still moving like a businessman. In his mind, 50's attack was not a financial analysis. It was jealousy dressed up as comedy. But there was one problem. 50 Cent is not just funny. He is strategic. Ross could clap back, but 50 had already planted the seed. That seed was now growing in comment sections, reaction videos, and fan debate. Every time Ross posted luxury content, people asked if the bills were paid. Every time he showed the estate, someone joked about maintenance. Every flex became a setup for another punchline. That is the cruel part of public image. Once people start laughing at the foundation, even the strongest palace can look unstable. Ross was defending his throne, but 50 had already turned the throne into evidence. Uncle Murda adds fuel to the fire. Just when the Ross and 50 Cent drama was already hot enough, Uncle Murda stepped into the conversation and made things even louder. And in hip-hop, when Uncle Murda starts talking, people listen because they expect him to say the thing others are only thinking. His involvement gave the feud a different kind of energy. 50's comments felt strategic and personal. Uncle Murda's comments felt like the street-level echo of the same argument. Suddenly, it was not just 50 Cent questioning Ross's image. It started to feel like a wider conversation inside rap culture about who is really living what they claim. That is what made this chapter dangerous for Ross. One enemy can look like a hater. Two voices can start to look like a pattern. And once fans believe there is a pattern, the internet does the rest. Uncle Murda's words pushed the story beyond simple jokes about grass and mansions. Now people were talking about authenticity. In hip-hop, authenticity is everything. You can be flashy, funny, dramatic, even arrogant, but the audience must believe there is truth somewhere beneath the image. If fans begin to feel like the character is bigger than the reality, the brand can crack fast. Ross has always been larger than life. That is part of his appeal. He does not sell ordinary success. He sells cinematic success. Every move feels oversized. Every entrance feels like a scene. Every purchase feels like a headline. But the bigger the image, the easier it is for rivals to ask whether the image is too big to maintain. 50 knew that. Uncle Murda knew that. And fans definitely knew that. Online, the debate split into two camps. Some people said Ross was being unfairly targeted because wealthy black artists are often criticized for owning too much, showing too much, or dreaming too loudly. Others said 50 was simply saying what people had been afraid to say. Luxury can become a performance, and sometimes the performance gets expensive. Ross now had to battle more than one rapper. He had to battle a narrative, and narratives are harder to defeat than diss tracks. The internet becomes the courtroom. By the time the story hit full speed, social media had turned into a courtroom with no judge, no rules, and millions of loud opinions. Every clip became evidence. Every old interview became testimony. Every photo of Rick Ross's estate became a new exhibit. That is how modern rap beef works. It is no longer only about who has the better diss song. It is about who controls the timeline. The audience does not wait for full facts. They react in real time. A joke becomes a headline. A headline becomes a debate. A debate becomes a belief. And 50 Cent understands that better than almost anyone. For years, 50 has mastered the art of internet pressure. He knows how to say something short enough to become a meme, sharp enough to sting, and simple enough for everyone to repeat. That is why the grass-cutting line traveled so far. It did not require deep background knowledge. Anyone could understand the insult. A man claims to be unbelievably rich, but his rival says he is out there maintaining the land himself because the bills are too heavy. Whether that interpretation was fair did not matter. It was viral. Ross's supporters tried to flip the joke back on 50. They argued that cutting your own grass is not broke behavior. It is owner behavior. They said Ross was showing discipline, pride, and connection to his property. They mocked the idea that a wealthy man becomes less wealthy just because he enjoys taking care of his land. But the other side kept laughing. They said a boss should not have to prove he owns the palace by working like the staff. They kept asking about taxes, upkeep, and debt rumors. The story had become bigger than the original claim. At that point, the truth was almost secondary. The emotional reaction had taken over. That is what makes public feuds so risky. Once fans pick a side, they do not only look for facts, they look for content that confirms what they already want to believe. If they love Ross, every move looks powerful. If they love 50, every Ross response looks defensive. And both men knew the attention was profitable. Money, image, and the price of looking untouchable. The reason this feud hit so hard is because it exposed a question that lives under almost every celebrity brand. How much does it cost to look untouchable? In hip-hop especially, luxury is part of the language. The mansion, the watches, the cars, the bottles, the private flights, they are not just personal choices. They become symbols. They tell fans, rivals, and business partners that an artist has reached a higher level. But symbols come with pressure. Once you build an image around always being up, every rumor of being down feels like an attack on your identity. Rick Ross knows this better than most. His entire sound is built around wealth, power, and boss-level ambition. When he raps, he does not sound like a man asking for permission. He sounds like a man giving orders from a marble balcony. That is why fans connected with him. He made success feel huge, cinematic, and almost royal. But 50 Cent attacked the royal image by talking about regular bills. That contrast is what made it sting. A mansion can look like a dream from the outside, but behind the gates there are property taxes, insurance, maintenance, payroll, security, repairs, and endless hidden costs. 50 did not have to prove Ross was broke. He only had to make people imagine the monthly expenses. Suddenly, the mansion was not just a flex, it was a calculator. And that is where Ross faced a difficult challenge. If he ignored the jokes, people might say he had no answer. If he responded too much, people might say 50 had touched a nerve. The more Ross defended the estate, the more the estate stayed in the conversation. The more he showed success, the more people examined the price of that success. It was a trap built out of attention. Still, Ross's brand also has a strength 50 cannot easily erase. Ross represents aspiration. Many fans do not watch him because they think his life is simple. They watch him because he makes impossible goals feel visible. To those fans, the promised land is not proof of financial pressure. It is proof that a rapper can dream bigger than the neighborhood that raised him. That is why the feud stayed so divided. Old beef, new weapons. The tension between Rick Ross and 50 Cent did not appear overnight. This is a feud with history, ego, and years of public shots behind it. What changed is the battlefield. Years ago, rap beef was mostly records, radio interviews, magazine covers, and street reputation. Now, the battlefield is a phone screen. That shift gives someone like 50 Cent a major advantage. 50 does not need a studio session to create damage. He can do it with one clip, one caption, one sarcastic laugh, or one repost. He understands how fast embarrassment travels. He understands that people do not always share the most accurate version of a story. They share the funniest version, the harshest version, or the one that makes the target look weakest. Ross, on the other hand, has his own weapons. He has presence. He has confidence. He has the larger-than-life aura that made him successful in the first place. When he speaks, he sounds like a man who believes the world is still his boardroom. That kind of energy can neutralize attacks, because fans want to believe in the boss image. They want Ross to keep winning because his wins feel like part of the fantasy he sold them. But this feud revealed something important. In today's hip-hop world, confidence alone is not enough. Every public figure needs narrative control. It is not only about being successful, it is about making sure people understand your success before your enemies define it for you. 50 tried to define Ross as a man drowning in the cost of his own image. Ross tried to define himself as an owner, being mocked by a rival who could not stand his shine. Both versions had power. That is why the feud refused to die. It was not just two rappers throwing insults. It was two brands fighting over meaning. What does it mean to be rich? What does it mean to be a boss? Is luxury still a flex if people think it is expensive to maintain? Is doing work on your own land humble, smart, or embarrassing? The internet did not agree on the answer. And because nobody agreed, the argument kept growing. The Nate Dogg connection shifts the conversation. Then another name entered the story and added a more emotional layer. Nate Dogg's son. When he became part of the wider conversation around 50 Cent, Rick Ross, and old industry tensions, the drama stopped feeling like only a financial roast. It started touching legacy. That matters because hip-hop fans do not only care about money and jokes, they care about history. They care about who respected who helped who, and who used someone's name when it was convenient. Once legacy enters a feud, the tone changes. The conversation becomes heavier. For Ross, the financial jokes were one problem, but any connection to respected names from hip-hop history creates another kind of pressure. Fans become more protective. They start asking whether people are crossing lines, whether old wounds are being reopened, and whether a modern beef is dragging too many names into the fire. 50 Cent has always been fearless about crossing uncomfortable territory. That is part of why people watch him. He does not behave like someone worried about being liked by everyone. He moves like a man who would rather be feared, quoted, and remembered than quietly approved. But that same fearless style can make the public question when a joke becomes too much. Ross also knows how to use emotional weight. He can present himself as the man standing tall, while others attack from the side. He can turn criticism into proof that he is important enough to be targeted. The more names that enter the conversation, the more Ross can argue that the entire thing is bigger than facts. It is about people trying to tear down a successful black mogul in public. That argument resonated with some fans. Others were not convinced. They believed Ross had spent years selling an image so massive that criticism was inevitable. To them, if you build a mansion-sized brand, you cannot be shocked when rivals inspect the foundation. That is why the Nate Dogg connection mattered. It reminded everyone that rap beef never stays in one lane. It starts with money, then touches pride, then history, then family, then legacy. And once legacy gets involved, nobody walks away clean. Why this feud still hasn't reached its final round. By the time the latest wave of drama settled, one thing was clear. The Rick Ross and 50 Cent feud is not really about one mansion, one joke, or one podcast clip. Those are only the sparks. The real fire comes from two men who built their careers on power and refused to let the other control the story. 50 Cent wants the world to see Rick Ross as a character whose lifestyle may be bigger than his reality. He wants fans to question the math, the image, the mansion, and the entire boss persona. That is why his attacks are so specific. He does not simply say Ross is losing. He points to the things Ross uses to look victorious and asks whether they are actually liabilities. Rick Ross wants the world to see 50 as a bitter rival who cannot stand another man's empire. He wants fans to view the Promised Land as a symbol of ownership, not pressure. He wants the grass-cutting joke to look small-minded, like someone mocking a man for taking pride in what he owned. And honestly, that is why the feud remains interesting. Both sides understand branding. Both sides know the audience. Both sides know that in modern entertainment, attention is currency. Even criticism can become promotion if you survive it with enough confidence. But there is also a warning inside this story. The bigger a celebrity image becomes, the more fragile it can be under public pressure. Fans love the dream, but they also love watching the dream get challenged. They cheer the mansion, then laugh when someone questions the bills. They celebrate the boss talk, then demand receipts. That contradiction is what fuels the entire machine. Ross may continue showing off the Promised Land. 50 may continue laughing at it. Uncle Murda and others may keep adding commentary. Fans may keep turning every moment into memes. But underneath all the jokes, the real question remains unresolved. Is Rick Ross proving what success looks like? Or is 50 Cent exposing the cost of pretending success has no limits? That question is exactly why this beef still has life. And if history tells us anything, neither one of these men is finished talking. The lesson behind the war. The Rick Ross and 50 Cent feud may look like entertainment on the surface, but underneath the jokes, the clips, and the viral comments, there is a deeper lesson about power, perception, and the cost of building a public image too big to ignore. Rick Ross built his empire around the idea of ownership. The mansion, the land, the cars, the business moves, all of it tells one story. A man who wanted more than rap money. He wanted legacy. He wanted to look like the boss he always claimed to be. And for many fans, that is exactly why they respect him. Ross represents ambition without apology. He makes success look grand, loud, and possible. But 50 Cent understands the other side of fame. He knows that the bigger the flex, the easier it is to attack. If a rapper builds his identity around being untouchable, then every rumor becomes dangerous. Every bill becomes a headline. Every joke about money becomes a challenge to the entire brand. That is why 50's strategy worked. He did not need to destroy the mansion. He only needed to make people question what the mansion really meant. Was it freedom? Was it pressure? Was it ownership? Was it a performance? Once those questions entered the public conversation, Ross had to defend more than a house. He had to defend the meaning of his success. The lesson here is not that wealth is bad, or that showing success is wrong. The lesson is that image always comes with responsibility. When artists sell a dream, fans eventually want to know what is behind the dream. When celebrities turn their lifestyle into content, rivals will turn that same lifestyle into criticism. Still, there is a human side that should not be ignored. Behind every public feud are real people, real families, real businesses, and real pressure. Hip-hop has always been competitive, but competition does not have to become destruction. A sharp joke can entertain, but peace and maturity can protect legacies. At some point, the smartest move is not always the loudest response. Sometimes the real boss move is knowing when to stop feeding the fire. Rick Ross and 50 Cent may never be friends. Their history may be too long, their egos too strong, and their brands too opposite. But their feud shows every young artist something important. Build your success on more than image. Protect your reputation with truth, and never let an enemy define your story before you do. Because in the end, money can buy a mansion, but only wisdom can protect a legacy. If you made it this far, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who follows hip-hop drama. Comment 1 if you think Rick Ross is still the real boss. Comment 2 if you think 50 Cent exposed the truth. And comment where you're watching from, because this conversation is far from over.